"You've been getting home late again." Her voice had that edge to it, not quite accusation, not quite concern. "My name is Ronald Winters, 52 years old and owner of Ironwood Forge, a heavy equipment contracting company I built from nothing but calloused hands and 18-hour days in Spokane, Washington. 15 years of marriage to Cheryl, 15 years of friendship with Wayne, 15 years of thinking I knew what loyalty meant. I stood in our kitchen that night, still in my work boots, exhaustion riding my shoulders like a familiar weight. The kitchen clock showed 9:30 p.m. Late, but not unusual. Not for a man trying to land the Patterson contract that would double our business. "Big project," I said, washing grease from under my fingernails. "You know how it is." Cheryl nodded, her lips pressed thin. She'd been different lately, distracted. Her phone always face down on tables, always within reach. She used to ask about my day, used to listen to the little victories and setbacks. Now there was just the quiet scrape of her fork on her dinner plate, reheated for one. "Wayne called," she said, casual, too casual. "Wanted to know if we're still on for the barbecue this weekend." I dried my hands slowly. Wayne Hoffman, my best friend since our 20s, the godfather to our son, the man who stood by me when my father died, when the bank almost foreclosed on our first equipment yard, when Cheryl miscarried our second child. "Sure," I said. "Tell him I'll bring the steaks." She smiled, a quick thing that didn't reach her eyes, then glanced at her phone when it buzzed. She turned it over, read something, and the smile changed, became real, soft, private. "Just Jennifer from book club," she said, though I hadn't asked. I nodded and headed for the shower, that knot in my gut tightening. The same knot I'd felt when Thompson Construction tried to undercut our bid by bringing in cheaper equipment from Canada. The same knot I'd felt when the bank manager called me son, while explaining why our loan wasn't approved. The feeling that said something's wrong here. Pay attention. Under the hot water, I thought about Wayne's new truck, about Cheryl's sudden interest in book club meetings on Thursday nights, about how they both seemed to find reasons to check their phones at the same time during our last dinner together. I'd ignored the signs for weeks, months maybe, but ignoring rot doesn't stop it from spreading. I met Wayne Hoffman on a construction site in 2010. He was a site manager. I was subcontracting the heavy equipment work. We got to talking about vintage motorcycles over lunch, and by the end of the project, we were riding together on weekends. When I decided to start Ironwood Forge 3 years later, Wayne was the first person I called. He put in $30,000, most of his savings, for a 15% stake and never once questioned my decisions, even when we barely broke even those first few years. Cheryl and I had already been married for 7 years by then. She'd stood by me when I was just an operator making hourly wages, when we lived in that one-bedroom apartment with the leaky ceiling. She'd believed in the dream even when her parents called me a guy with dirt under his nails and nothing to show for it. We built something real together. A home, a son, Thomas, now in college studying engineering. A life where her parents eventually ate their words at our 25th anniversary party. Her father admitting I'd done all right after all, while eyeing the lake house we'd just bought. Wayne was there for all of it. Bachelor party, best man. Hospital waiting room when Thomas was born. The three of us, Cheryl, Wayne, and me, we were solid. A triangle that couldn't be broken. At least that's what I thought. The first real crack appeared last Christmas. Wayne's wife, Diane, had left him the year before, claiming she needed space. He spent the holiday with us like family should. I noticed how Cheryl touched his arm when she laughed at his jokes, how their eyes held a beat too long when they thought I wasn't watching. I brushed it off, told myself it was nothing. Wayne had been my friend for 15 years. You don't throw that away over a hunch. Then came the missed calls on her phone from Jennifer at odd hours. The new perfume she started wearing to book club. The way she'd jump when I walked into a room while she was texting. Wayne started finding reasons to stop by the house when I was still at job sites, offering to help Cheryl with the leaky faucet in the guest bathroom, dropping off documents he could have easily emailed. I kept my mouth shut, kept working late to secure our future, to expand the business we'd built. Every man has blind spots when it comes to the people he trusts most. Mine were staring me in the face, and still, I looked away, until I couldn't anymore. It was a Tuesday evening in April when everything fell apart. I'd finished at the Patterson site early. We'd finally landed the contract, and decided to surprise Cheryl by coming home for dinner instead of grabbing takeout. I stopped to pick up a bottle of her favorite wine, feeling like we needed to reconnect. Like maybe I could fix whatever was pulling us apart. The house was quiet when I walked in. Too quiet for 7 in the evening. Cheryl's car was in the driveway, but she wasn't in the kitchen or living room. I set the wine on the counter, noticing her phone next to the sink, screen lit up with an incoming message. I'd never been the type to check my wife's phone. Never needed to. But something about the timing, the silence in the house, the knot in my gut that had grown too large to ignore. My hand moved before I could second-guess myself. The message was from Wayne. Left my jacket upstairs. Don't tell Ron I stopped by. My body went cold, not with shock, but with certainty. Like the final tumbler in a lock clicking into place. I took the stairs slowly, each step measured, listening. The master bedroom door was partly open. I pushed it wider and found Cheryl sitting on the edge of our bed, holding Wayne's leather jacket, the one I'd given him for his 50th birthday. She looked up, saw me standing there, and the color drained from her face. "Ron," she said. Just my name, hanging in the air between us. I held up her phone, screen still lit. He left his jacket. She didn't deny it, didn't try to spin some story about helping him with paperwork or discussing a surprise party for me. She just sat there, shoulders slumped, still clutching his jacket. "You're always working late," she finally said, eyes fixed on the floor. He was there for me. I nodded slowly, feeling strangely calm. "I get it. I just need some time to process this." I turned and walked out down the stairs, grabbing my keys from the hook by the door. I drove to the empty ironwood office and sat at my desk in the dark, staring at nothing. It wasn't just the betrayal of my wife. It was Wayne. 15 years of friendship. 15 years of trust. The man who'd helped me build everything I had, now trying to take the most important part. I pulled out my desk bottle, the good whiskey we broke open when we landed the Patterson contract just that morning, and poured 2 fingers. Didn't drink it, just stared at the amber liquid catching light from the parking lot outside. By midnight, I hadn't touched the whiskey, but something had hardened inside me. The pain was still there, a physical ache behind my ribs, but it was being walled off by something colder, more focused. I'd spent my life building things, equipment fleets, a company, a marriage. Now I was going to take something apart, piece by careful piece. I pulled out my phone and called my lawyer's private number. I gave Cheryl space for exactly 3 days. Slept in the guest room. Didn't ask where she went during the day or who she was talking to when her phone rang. I was cordial, distant, processing, exactly what a stunned husband should be doing. What she didn't see was what happened during business hours. The morning after finding Wayne's jacket, I met with Harold Kessler, the corporate attorney who'd helped structure Ironwood Forge when we first incorporated. We sat in his downtown office, blinds half drawn against the spring sunshine. "You want to trigger Article 7, he said, eyebrows raised. Not a question. Yes. Article 7 was my insurance policy. When Wayne and I formalized his investment 15 years ago, Harold had suggested including a clause that would protect the company if either partner engaged in actions that could damage its reputation. At the time, I was thinking about gambling debts or DUIs, things that could scare off clients in our conservative industry. I never imagined I'd use it because my partner was sleeping with my wife. "It'll mean buying him out at predetermined rates," Harold warned. 20 cents on the dollar of current valuation. I nodded. "I know. And you have proof?" I slid my phone across the desk, the text messages I'd downloaded from Cheryl's phone while she slept. The GPS history showing Wayne's truck parked at our house during work hours when I was at job sites. The emails I'd found when I finally checked her laptop. Harold scrolled through it all, his expression professionally neutral. This will get ugly, Ron. It's already ugly. 2 days later, the papers were ready. I called Wayne and asked him to meet me at the office after hours. Said I needed to discuss the Patterson project expansion. He showed up looking exactly like he always did. Flannel shirt, work jeans, that leather birthday jacket. Like a man with nothing to hide. Like my friend. "Hey, buddy," he said, dropping into the chair across from my desk. "What's so urgent it couldn't wait till morning?" I slid the folder across to him. "Article 7 dissolution papers. I'm buying your shares." His face went from confused to shocked to angry in the space of seconds as he flipped through the documents. "What the hell is this, Article 7? Actions detrimental to the company's reputation? Where is this coming from?" I kept my voice level. "You know exactly where it's coming from, Wayne. Is this about Cheryl?" He leaned forward, lowering his voice like we were conspirators. "Look, I know things haven't been great between you two. She's been lonely, man. It just happened. 15 years of friendship and that's your explanation? It just happened?" He ran a hand through his hair. "You've been absent, Ron. Working all the time, building this precious company. When was the last time you actually listened to her? Actually showed up?" His voice took on a righteous edge. "You drove her right to me." I almost laughed. "So it's my fault." "I'm not signing this," he said, pushing the folder back. "You can't force me out over a personal matter." "Actually, I can. Section 3, paragraph 2. Read it." He glanced down, reading the fine print he'd signed 15 years ago without a second thought. His face darkened. "You'd do this to me? After everything we've built together?" "You did this to us," I corrected. "I'm just following the contract." Wayne stood up, knocking his chair back. "Cheryl won't stand for this. She'll back me up." I just nodded. "You should call her." He pulled out his phone, his fingers jabbing at the screen as he stormed out. I sat back in my chair, waiting for the next domino to fall. The next morning, Wayne showed up at my house. I was in the kitchen making coffee when he burst through the front door like he owned the place. Maybe, in his mind, he thought he did. "What did you say to her?" he demanded, face flushed with anger. I took my time pouring the coffee. "Who?" "Cheryl. She's not answering my calls. Her sister said she left town yesterday." That was news to me. I'd given her space, hadn't tracked her movements, but I kept my face neutral as I sipped my coffee. Maybe she needed time to think. Wayne slammed his palm on the counter. "Don't play games. You threatened her, didn't you? Made her choose between me and your money?" I set my mug down carefully. "I didn't have to threaten anyone, Wayne. I showed her the same paperwork I showed you, the dissolution of our partnership, and I showed her the prenuptial agreement she signed when we got married. The one with the infidelity clause." His face went slack. "What infidelity clause?" "The one that says if either party commits adultery, they forfeit all rights to community property acquired during the marriage, including ownership stake in Ironwood Forge." This was the piece Wayne never knew about. When Cheryl and I married, her parents insisted on a prenup to protect their family money. I'd agreed, but added my own conditions. We'd both signed it, then filed it away, never expecting to need it. "You're lying," Wayne said, but his voice lacked conviction. I walked to my home office, unlocked the bottom drawer of my filing cabinet, and pulled out a folder. Inside was the original prenup with both our signatures, along with the amendment clarifying the infidelity clause. Wayne read it, then looked up at me with something like awe. "You've been planning this for 15 years?" "No," I said honestly. "I've been protecting what's mine for 15 years. There's a difference." He sank into a chair, the fight draining out of him. "So that's it? You strip us both of everything?" "Not everything," I corrected. "Just what you took from me." But there was more Wayne didn't know. While he'd been busy destroying our friendship and my marriage, I'd been reviewing all of Ironwood's client contracts. Most had been signed with my personal guarantee, not the company's. The clients were loyal to me, not to our logo. I'd also discovered something that turned my stomach. Going back through the company books, I found small discrepancies. equipment rentals billed to projects that never used them, expense accounts that didn't match receipts, vendor payments that seemed inflated, all managed by Wayne. "There's one more thing," I said, pulling out another folder. "The audit of your expense accounts for the past 3 years." Wayne's eyes widened. "Ron, that's not what? Not embezzlement?" "Because the accountant says it looks exactly like embezzlement. $173,000 worth." The blood drained from his face. "It was temporary. I was going to put it back." "With what money? Your divorce cleaned you out 2 years ago." "I needed it for Diane's settlement," he admitted. "Then for the down payment on the new house. Then to impress—" He trailed off. "To impress my wife," I finished for him. He stared at the floor. "What are you going to do?" I closed the folder. "That depends on whether you sign the dissolution papers. Sign, and this audit never sees the light of day. Fight me, and I'll take this to the district attorney." Wayne looked at me for a long moment. "You've thought of everything, haven't you?" "No," I said quietly. "I never thought I'd have to think of this." Segment 3, 600 words. Plan in motion. I gave Wayne 24 hours to sign the papers. He did it in 12. By the end of the week, his 15% stake in Ironwood Forge belonged to me at 20 cents on the dollar, a fraction of what it was worth after we'd landed the Patterson contract. What he didn't know was that I'd already been in touch with Patterson Construction. I'd personally guaranteed our performance on their project, assuring them that the internal restructuring at Ironwood wouldn't affect their timeline or quality. Old man Patterson himself had clapped me on the shoulder and said, "We always knew we were hiring you, Ron, not your company." While Wayne was cleaning out his office, I was meeting with our 3 other major clients, securing their business with personal handshakes and revised contracts. By the time he'd finished packing his photos and coffee mug, I'd locked down 80% of our annual revenue with ironclad agreements that followed me, not the Ironwood name. Cheryl returned after a week at her sister's place in Portland. I was in the backyard splitting firewood when her car pulled into the driveway. She approached cautiously, like she was testing thin ice. "We need to talk," she said. I set down the axe. "About?" "About us. About what happens next." Her voice was steady, practiced. She'd been rehearsing this conversation. "I've already filed the divorce papers," I said. "Your copy is on the kitchen counter." She blinked, thrown off her script. "Just like that? 15 years of marriage and you're throwing it away without even trying to fix things?" The irony almost made me laugh. Almost. "You already made that decision," I said, picking up another log. "I'm just handling the paperwork." "Ron, people make mistakes. Marriages recover from affairs all the time." I lined up the axe. "This wasn't a mistake. It was a choice. You made it every day for months." I brought the axe down, splitting the log clean through. The crack echoed across the yard. "What about the house?" she asked, shifting to practical matters now that the emotional appeal had failed. "And your retirement accounts? My lawyer says I'm entitled to half of everything." I set the axe down again and faced her directly. "Your lawyer should read your prenup more carefully, specifically the infidelity clause." Her face went pale. "That old thing? We signed that 20 years ago. Can't possibly—" "It can and it does," I said, cutting her off. "But I'm not leaving you with nothing. You'll get the vacation cabin and a settlement. Enough to start over, not enough to share with Wayne." Her eyes widened. "Wayne? What does he have to do with the divorce?" "Nothing anymore. He's been bought out of Ironwood. The money he embezzled is being repaid through the sale of his shares." She sat down heavily on the garden bench. "Embezzled? What are you talking about?" I realized then that she didn't know. Wayne had been stealing to maintain the lifestyle that impressed her, to afford the gifts and dinners and weekend getaways. He'd betrayed not just me, but her expectations too. "Ask him yourself," I said, picking up the axe again, "though I doubt he'll take your call now that he's lost his golden goose." She stared at me like she was seeing a stranger. Maybe she was. The man who would have forgiven her anything, who would have worked himself to death to give her everything. That man died the night I found Wayne's jacket on our bed. "Who are you?" she whispered. I split another log. "Someone who's done carrying people who are planning to drop me." 6 weeks after finding Wayne's jacket, I sat in a conference room at Driftshade Limited, the second largest construction company in eastern Washington. Across from me were their CEO, Arthur Bowman, and their lead counsel. Between us lay a stack of papers, the acquisition agreement for Ironwood Forge. "One last chance to reconsider, Ron," Arthur said. "Once you sign, there's no turning back." I reached for the pen. I'm not the one who'll be having regrets. The plan had come together almost by accident. 2 weeks after forcing Wayne out, I'd gotten a call from Arthur. Driftshade had been trying to expand their heavy equipment division for years. With the Patterson contract secured and my company's reputation stronger than ever, the timing was perfect. I could have said no. Could have kept building Ironwood myself. But the company had become tainted, a daily reminder of betrayal. I needed a clean break, a fresh start. So I'd made a deal. Driftshade would acquire Ironwood Forge for twice its market value, with the condition that I stay on as division president for 2 years, bringing my client relationships and expertise with me. After that, I'd be free to retire or start something new. I signed my name on the final page, sliding the contract back across the table. Arthur's secretary appeared at the door. "Mr. Bowman, there's someone here to see Mr. Winters. A Mr. Hoffman?" Arthur looked at me. I nodded. Wayne walked in, his face tight with barely controlled anger. "You sold the company? Without even offering me the chance to buy back in?" I stood, extending my hand to Arthur. "Thank you for your time. I look forward to our partnership." As the Driftshade executives filed out, I finally turned to Wayne. "You're right, I sold it. For $17 million. His mouth fell open. 17. But my shares were worth about $600,000 at the time you sold them back to me. For $120,000. The magnitude of what he'd lost hit him all at once. "You son of a—" "I'd be careful with the next words out of your mouth," I said quietly. "You're standing on very thin ice as it is." Wayne's fists clenched at his sides. "This isn't over." "Actually," I said, collecting my copy of the contract, "it is." 1 year later, I stood on the deck of my new cabin overlooking the Columbia River. Not the vacation place Cheryl got in the divorce. A new one, bigger, with a workshop out back where I was restoring a 1967 Harley I'd wanted since I was 19. The divorce had been final for 9 months. The settlement was exactly what I'd offered her from the start. Fair, but not generous. She'd taken it without a fight once her lawyer confirmed the prenup would hold up in court. I'd heard through mutual friends that she and Wayne had tried to make a go of it for a few months before it fell apart. He couldn't keep up the lifestyle she expected, not after losing his stake in Ironwood and having his reputation tarnished in our industry. Last I heard, she'd moved to Seattle trying to start fresh. Wayne had it worse. After our confrontation at Driftshade, he'd tried to launch his own equipment rental business, calling on the same clients we'd built relationships with over the years. But word had gotten around about his exit from Ironwood, about the accounting irregularities during his tenure. No one would touch him. He'd ended up taking a salaried position with a small outfit in Idaho, a major step down for a man who once owned part of the biggest equipment contractor in eastern Washington. I took a sip of my coffee, watching an osprey circle over the river. My phone buzzed in my pocket, a text from Thomas, my son. He was coming home for the weekend, wanted to know if I was free for dinner. I texted back, "Always free for you." At 53, I wasn't where I thought I'd be at this stage of my life. My marriage was over. My best friend was a stranger. The company I'd built was in someone else's hands, even if I still ran it day to day. But I was standing on my own deck, breathing clean air, with my son still in my life and $17 million in investments working for me. I'd lost what wasn't real and kept what mattered. Some men spend their whole lives learning who they can trust. I learned it in one brutal night, expensive lesson but worth every penny.